Okay, finally we get to Reo virus, the virus that just has to be a little different. It's RNA, but double-stranded. I guess it couldn't make up its mind if it wanted to be RNA or DNA. It chose RNA, but didn't want to fully commit. Anyway, Reo virus will take place at the Rio Grand Prix in beautiful Colorado. As we set the scene of the Rio Grand Prix, you'll notice we're using some beautiful oranges and other warm colors to remind you that it's an RNA virus. As I said, what makes it unique is that it's a double-stranded RNA virus. So the whole positive versus negative sense aspect of classification doesn't really apply here. Thus, there's no sun or moon in the sky. It's kind of right in between, sunset time. And as an RNA virus, it replicates in the cytoplasm. None of this replicating in the nucleus business like orthomyxovirus. So Reo virus is non-enveloped or naked, so let's bring in our buddy David onto the scene here in the back. Or perhaps a rock formation that looks suspiciously like David. So to round out the general characteristics, Reo virus is segmented and is the last virus in the Bohr mnemonic. Do you remember the others? Try thinking back to the other pictures. We have Bunyavirus and Paul Bunyan's 3 chopped down trees. We have orthomyxovirus and the 8 segments represented by the 8-legged octopus. And then we have arenavirus and the 2 circles for our gladiators. And finally we have reovirus, which has a total of 11 segments on average, the most out of all the segmented viruses. And some have more, some have less. Just know that it's between 9 and 12 segments. So to illustrate that it's a segmented virus and there are 11 segments, we have this Rio Grande River, which is a pretty big river. So we'll add 11 boats on the river, 1 for each segment. Also, since it's a race, we need lanes. So we'll add this flotation rope separating the 2 lanes. And notice it's a double helix? Well, this is to remind you that Reo virus is double-stranded. Alright, so there are a few different kinds of Reo viruses. The most important that you need to know is rotavirus. Rotavirus is transmitted by the fecal-oral route and causes a toxin-mediated secretory diarrhea. It can be a fairly explosive, watery diarrhea, a lot like norovirus. And when you hear rota, don't you think of rotate or rotary, which definitely stirs up an image of a propeller? So we'll stick with the same propeller theme we used in norovirus and add a motor to the boat here. See the brown, muddy water flying everywhere? Pretty nice visual for this type of diarrhea. The toxin that's responsible for this diarrhea is called NSP4, and it's a viral enterotoxin that increases chloride permeability, leading to secretory diarrhea. So to illustrate all of this, first let's write on the engine 9-speed 4-stroke. And that might sound a little unrelated, but let's break it down. N for 9, SP for speed, and the number 4. That makes NSP4, the enterotoxin responsible for the symptoms caused by rotavirus. Finally, you can remember what the toxin does with the name of the boat. It's called chlorida, to remind you that it increases chloride permeability. I love it when the pathogenesis, the main symptoms, and the name of the microbe all fit together so well. So a lot of these viral illnesses are seasonal, and rotavirus is definitely one of those seasonal viruses. The classic time of year for these rotavirus outbreaks is wintertime. So we'll add some snow caps to the mountains off in the distance. And again, this is to remind you that it occurs most often in wintertime. So what population is most at risk? Well, look at who's racing the boats. If you look closely, each contestant is a kid, because children are at high risk of catching rotavirus. The classic patient is an infant or a young child, especially those in daycare. In fact, it's the leading cause of severe diarrhea in infants and children. So if you look towards the finish line, we'll draw in an enthusiastic fan holding a giant foam finger with a number 1 on it. And that number 1 is because it's the number 1 cause of severe diarrhea in young children. The other, somewhat less relevant virus in the Reo family is Colorado tick virus. The virus causes fever, vomiting, and myalgia, but no rash. It occurs in the Rocky Mountain states, but can be differentiated from Rocky Mountain spotted fever by the lack of rash. So on the left side of our picture, we'll put a big sign saying, "Welcome to Colorado." How convenient that the Rio Grande actually starts in Colorado. Also on the sign, we'll put a big tick. And putting this all together, it'll be easy to remember Colorado tick virus. Nearby, we'll add a kid emerging from the water on all fours, red-faced, dripping, and moving towards the sign. He's infected with Colorado tick virus, and he's suffering from myalgia, fever, and vomiting. We haven't talked treatment yet, but it's pretty simple. Treatment is supportive care, and oral rehydration therapy is typically sufficient for rotavirus. So we'll give this kid a water bottle to remind you of oral rehydration therapy. But why subject the kiddos to rotavirus when we have prophylaxis? A live attenuated oral vaccine is now part of the standard vaccination schedule. So here on the right, we'll draw a camera crew that's shooting live. And if you look carefully, the host is holding a mic that's shaped like a syringe, our symbol for a vaccine. And like you're supposed to do with a mic, he's holding it up to his mouth. So altogether, you should remember that it's a live vaccine that's taken orally. These next two facts about the vaccine are pure gold for the pediatrics rotation, but also for the boards. So first, the first dose of rotavirus should be given before 3 months of age due to decreased efficacy and increased risk of side effects. And second, the vaccine is thought to increase the risk of intussusception due to stimulation and enlargement of Peyer's patches, which then act as a lead point. So intussusception is like telescoping of the bowel, so we'll give one of the members of the media a big telescope to remind you of that. Alright, and that's all for Reo virus. Remember, it's unique in that it's a double-stranded RNA virus, so it's both positive and negative sense. It also has, on average, 11 segments. And finally, if you can remember the pearl about the rotavirus vaccine increasing risk of intussusception, you'll be golden.